The storm had already settled by the time Cole Brennan's plane landed in Vermont. It was just past 5 in the evening when he stepped onto the tarmac, his charcoal wool coat flaring behind him like a cape in the winter wind. Most would have called it a dramatic entrance. Cole didn't deal in drama. He dealt in numbers, in market caps, in measurable returns. Everything else was irrelevant noise, including the child tugging at his coat pocket with mittened hands and wide, restless eyes. "Daddy," Maddie said, her voice high and soft under the pink hat pulled down over her ears, "is this where the trees live?" "Technically, trees live everywhere," Cole replied, distracted as he glanced down at his phone, already scanning emails. "But yes, this is where you'll be staying." Maddie blinked at him. "And you?" He hesitated, the kind of hesitation that told on a man. "I'll visit," he said too quickly, "as often as I can." The truth was, this trip was a scramble, a temporary retreat arranged by his assistant when he realized, too late, that Maddie's winter break was nearly 4 weeks long and that his ex-wife had backed out of taking her at the last minute. The resort was called Pinewood Hollow. Private cabins, plenty of snow, no press. He figured he'd work remotely, keep the company afloat from his laptop, and have a few meals a day with Maddie. Enough to feel like a good father, enough to keep the guilt at bay. But as they drove through winding backroads and past fields blanketed in snow, something inside him began to unravel, strand by cold strand. The cabin was smaller than he expected, quaint, the kind of place that forced proximity. There was no sleek metal or glass, no modern appliances or smart home setups, just wooden beams, mismatched furniture, and a stone fireplace that looked like it hadn't been lit in decades. Cole looked around the dim interior and exhaled. He opened his mouth to call his assistant, then stopped himself. "Cozy," he muttered, closing the door behind them. "It smells like cookies and firewood," Maddie said, spinning in a slow circle before flopping onto the couch with the kind of uninhibited grace only a 7-year-old could manage. "You'd like cookies," Cole murmured, already pulling out his phone again. "Let me check if there's a delivery service here." "There is." The voice came from the doorway, low, slightly amused, and entirely unexpected. Cole turned sharply to find a woman standing there with a clipboard in one hand and snow clinging to her boots. She wore a forest green parka over a thick sweater and jeans, her dark hair pulled back in a loose braid. There was a smear of flour near her temple, as if she'd been baking and hadn't noticed, or hadn't cared. "You just let yourself in?" he asked, raising a brow. She smiled like someone used to dealing with people like him. "I knocked. You were busy. I'm Eva. I run things around here." "Things?" "Pinewood Hollow, the cabins, the activity schedules, the bakery. Most of the maintenance unless it's electrical. Then I called Dennis. You must be Cole Brennan." He didn't offer his hand. He didn't like being surprised. "Yes, this is my daughter, Madison." "Hi," Maddie chirped from the couch. "I like your boots." Eva's expression softened as she looked at her. "Thanks, sweetheart. They're the only ones that keep me from falling on my face out here." She walked deeper into the room, undeterred by Cole's silence. "So here's the rundown. Breakfast is served at the lodge if you don't want to cook. You're free to join any group activities or not. Sledding, snowshoeing, bonfires, crafts, kid-friendly mostly. There's no cell service at the cabins, but the lodge has Wi-Fi." Cole stiffened. "No service." "It's part of the charm. I'm running a company." Eva nodded, unconcerned. "You'll survive the 10-minute walk to the lodge each morning." He narrowed his eyes. "We'll see about that." Eva met his gaze and held it, then turned to Maddie. "There's a cookie decorating workshop tonight. You in?" Maddie's face lit up like someone had flipped a switch inside her. "Yes, Daddy, can we go?" Cole hesitated. "We just got here, maybe tomorrow." Eva did interfere. She only gave Maddie a conspiratorial wink. "I'll save you a snowflake cookie." And just like that, she was gone. That night, Maddie talked about Eva for 15 straight minutes before she fell asleep on the couch with a book open on her chest. Cole carried her to the bedroom and tucked her in with awkward hands, smoothing her hair back, then pausing beside the bed, just watching her. He didn't understand children. He understood productivity, strategy, quiet boardrooms, and high stakes. Maddie existed in a world of questions and impulsive laughter and bedtime songs she insisted he sing even though he didn't know the words. She was a riddle he didn't know how to solve. He sat at the small table with his laptop, fielding a call from Singapore while a fire crackled in the hearth like a taunt. "Let me guess," Eva said the next morning, watching him storm into the lodge. "You hated everything." Cole ignored the sarcasm. "I need a stable Wi-Fi connection and a private room to take calls." Eva sipped her coffee and pointed toward a smaller building behind the main lodge. "There's an old office you can use. It was a library, it's quiet, mostly." "Mostly." "There's a cat, he doesn't like being ignored." Cole ran a hand down his face. "Of course there is." By the time he set up shop in the makeshift office, Maddie was deep in a snowball fight with 3 other kids and had apparently forgotten his existence. Eva stood nearby, shouting encouragements, her laughter rising like a warm current through the cold. She was chaos, friendly, unfiltered, capable chaos, the kind of woman who made everything seem easier, lighter. He had no patience for people like her, or maybe he had too much curiosity. That afternoon, he found a plate of cookies on the table when he returned from the office, along with a note in loopy handwriting. "For Maddie, or you if you learn to share." He stared at it longer than he should have, then tossed the note in the fire and ate 3 cookies before Maddie got home. By the 3rd day, something began to shift. It was in the way Maddie pulled him outside to watch her sled down a small hill Eva had groomed behind the cabins. The way his phone died, and for once, he didn't rush to recharge it. The way Eva sat beside him on the porch that night with 2 mugs of hot cider and said nothing at all, just watched the stars. "You don't relax easily," she said after a long pause. "It's not in the job description." "Maybe that's the problem." He turned to look at her. There was something in her expression, curiosity, not judgment, as if she saw more than he meant to show. "Some of us don't have the luxury of baking cookies for a living." She tilted her head, not offended. "Is that what you think I do? I think you live here in the woods and run a camp and wear boots that don't match your jacket. You think a lot of things. And you assume I'm made of stone." Eva leaned back, her eyes still on the sky. "I think you're tired, and I think you're scared to stop working because you're afraid of what you'll feel when it gets quiet." The words hit him harder than he expected, not like an insult, more like a truth he hadn't allowed himself to say. He stood, "Thanks for the cider." She didn't stop him, but as he walked away he heard her voice calm and certain. "You'll have to let someone in eventually, Cole, even if it's just for her sake." He didn't ask if she meant Maddie. He didn't have to. Maddie got a cold on the 4th day. It wasn't serious. A low fever, a cough that worsened at night, and the kind of lethargy that made her burrow deeper under the hand-stitched quilt Eva had lent them from the lodge. Cole stayed up that night sitting beside her bed, laptop closed for once, hand resting lightly on her back as she dozed through another fit of coughing. He didn't panic, not outwardly, but inside the old fear stirred. The same fear that had lodged itself in his chest the day she was born 7 weeks early. The fear that she might slip through his fingers in ways he couldn't control. Business he could predict, crisis he could manage, but a child's body shivering in sleep, that unraveled him. By morning she was better, not good enough to go outside but smiling again, reading, coloring, watching the snow fall through the window with a kind of reverence. Cole was pacing in the kitchen, phone in hand, when a knock came. Not rushed, just steady. Eva stood there holding a thermos and a box wrapped in a scarf. Her eyes went to Maddie immediately. "She okay?" Cole nodded, low fever, some coughing, no worse than yesterday. "I brought broth and those lemon cookies she liked. They help with sore throats." He opened the door wider. "You didn't have to do that." She stepped in, brushing snow from her shoulders. "I know, that's why I did." It wasn't flirtation. It was care, plain and undeserved. She placed the food on the counter, then crouched beside the couch where Maddie lay under a pile of blankets. "Hey, Snow Angel, feeling a little better?" Maddie nodded. "Daddy made oatmeal, it was weird." Eva laughed. "He's still learning. You're brave for eating it." They shared a look, the kind that passes easily between a child and someone who truly sees them. Cole watched, arms crossed, resisting the pull. "She's lucky," Eva said after a moment, standing, "to have you here." Cole exhaled through his nose, not like she had a choice. Eva tilted her head. "That's not true. Kids notice everything. The things we do when we think they're not looking. She knows you're trying, that counts." He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, "I don't know how to be what she needs." "You're already being it. Showing up is the hard part." Something in her tone made him look up. There was a gentleness to her, but it was hard one. She wasn't naive. She just hadn't let the world make her bitter. "Do you have kids?" he asked. Her smile dimmed at the edges. "No, but I've taken care of a lot of them, summers mostly, before I moved here full-time. Some of them are grown now and still write me letters. I used to be a teacher." He studied her, used to. Burned out, lost someone, needed quiet. She didn't elaborate and he didn't ask, but her words lingered. That afternoon when Maddie fell asleep again, Eva stayed. She sat at the table with a needle and thread, repairing a tear in one of the old lodge cushions while Cole checked emails beside her. The silence was companionable, not awkward. Every so often their eyes met across the worn wood. No words, just awareness. By evening, Cole had started a fire without YouTube instructions, and Eva handed him a folded list of upcoming kid activities, already circled. "I figured you wouldn't check the lodge bulletin. These are the ones Maddie would probably like." He took it, brushing her fingers by accident. Neither of them moved. "I'm not good at things like this," he said finally. "You don't have to be good at it, just present." He wanted to kiss her. It hit him fast and sharp, that urge. Not lust, not even longing. Just the need to cross the space between them and let his mouth rest against hers, if only to confirm that she was as real as she seemed. But he didn't. And she didn't pull away. Instead, Eva took the thermos from the counter, her voice light again. "Tell Maddie I'll save her a place at tomorrow's craft table." She was halfway to the door when Maddie stirred from the couch, lifting her head. "Wait," her voice was scratchy but sure. "Aren't you gonna kiss her?" Cole froze, so did Eva. Maddie blinked at both of them like it was the most reasonable question in the world. "I saw the way you looked at her," she said, eyes settling on her father. "Just do it." The silence was thick. Cole coughed, flustered. "Maddie." Eva was trying not to laugh, lips pressed together. "I mean," Maddie added, laying back again, "it's what they do in the movies." And then she fell asleep again, like nothing had happened. Eva stood very still for a beat, then gave Cole a look that was equal parts amused and disarming. "You've got a brave kid." "She didn't get that from me." Eva opened the door, stepping into the cold night. "Maybe she got it from the part of you that's waking up." What? The next week unspooled like a slow thaw. Maddie's fever passed. Her cheeks turned pink again. She spent her days outside more than in, chasing snowflakes, building crooked snowmen, dragging Cole to sled races he hadn't agreed to. And Cole, against all instinct, started letting go. He didn't check his phone until lunch. He left his laptop in the cabin. He spent entire mornings walking alongside his daughter on icy trails, watching the way her boots made small, determined prints. Eva was there orbiting, not always close. Sometimes just a voice in the lodge, a flash of green coat in the trees, laughter echoing across the frozen lake. But when she was near, he felt it, that gravitational pull. One night after a community dinner at the lodge where Maddie had glued macaroni to paper hearts and Cole had eaten a questionable stew with other seasonal guests, he found Eva on the back steps alone. Snow fell in soft flakes. The world felt hushed. He sat beside her, their shoulders close. "She's happy here," he said. Eva nodded. "She's a great kid. You've done well with her." "I've done just enough to not screw her up permanently." "You're harder on yourself than she'll ever be." They sat in silence for a long time. Cole didn't know what made him say it, but his voice came quieter than he intended. "I haven't let someone in since her mother left." Eva didn't flinch. "How long?" 3 years, maybe more if I'm being honest." She looked at him then, really looked, and it wasn't pity he saw in her eyes, it was understanding. I haven't either, she said. Cole shifted. Do you ever want to again? Eva's breath left in a cloud. Sometimes in the quiet moments when I'm not afraid. Afraid of what? She smiled, sad and soft. That I'll get used to being seen again, and then they'll stop looking. That silenced him. He reached for her hand, slowly, not assuming, just offering. She let him, and neither of them said another word until the fire inside the lodge had burned down low, and the stars blinked brighter than they had all winter. The days shortened, but the light inside the cabin felt warmer. Morning started not with Cole answering emails, but with Maddie crawling into his bed whispering, "It snowed again," as if the world outside had been remade just for her. He still checked work messages, but only after breakfast, and he never opened his laptop if Maddie was drawing or asking him to help build something with pinecones and too much glue. The change didn't happen all at once. It came in quiet layers, in how he looked up more often, in how he stopped measuring time in meetings and started noticing the sound of icicles dripping or the way his daughter laughed with her whole body. And Eva, she became a constant. Not every hour, not always planned, but she was there. Helping Maddie string popcorn for the birds, standing beside Cole at the frozen lake while Maddie skated circles in borrowed boots, cheeks red and arms out like she could take off if the wind caught her just right. One afternoon, Maddie climbed a low branch and declared herself queen of the quiet trees. Cole laughed harder than he had in months. Later that day, while Maddie napped, Eva brought over a stack of books she thought she'd like. Not the usual princess stuff. Stories about clever girls who used maps and knots in their voices. Cole watched her hold each one like it mattered. "You don't just run this place," he said. "You make it something." Eva shrugged, brushing hair from her face. "I try to make it feel like a place someone would want to stay." He nodded. "It does." He didn't say, "I want to stay." But he thought it. That evening there was a bonfire behind the lodge. Guests wrapped in scarves and blankets circled the flames, sipping cider and roasting things over sticks. Eva passed out marshmallows, her braid tucked under a beanie. Cole sat beside Maddie on a log, his arm curled protectively around her shoulders. When Eva passed by, Maddie pulled at her sleeve. "Want to sit with us?" Eva glanced at Cole as if silently asking permission. He didn't say yes out loud, he just made space. The three of them sat together, the fire painting gold across their faces. Someone played guitar nearby. People hummed along. Maddie's head drooped against Cole's chest, her body soft and tired. Eva shifted slightly toward him, her voice low. "She's safe with you." It was a simple statement, but it cracked something open in him. "I didn't know if I could do this," he admitted. "Be a real dad, not just the one who shows up in court-approved time blocks." "You're doing it now." Cole turned his face toward her. "Because of this place, because of you." She didn't speak, just watched him with eyes that didn't flinch. And then, for one breathless second, the distance between them felt smaller than the space between two heartbeats. He leaned in. Close. So close that he could see the flecks of green in her eyes, the way her breath hitched. But she turned her face gently, the moment slipping past like warm air in cold hands. "Not here," she whispered, nodding toward the child sleeping between them. "Not like this." Cole didn't argue, he just sat back. His heart drummed in his chest, not with rejection but restraint. The next morning, everything changed. Cole stepped out of the cabin early, expecting quiet snow. Instead, he heard shouting, not anger, panic. Down by the frozen creek, two of the resort's older guests were waving frantically. Cole ran. He got there just as Eva did, her boots crunching over the ice with terrifying speed. A boy, maybe 9, had wandered out too far. The ice beneath him had cracked, a dark spiderweb threatening his feet. "Stay still," Eva said, calm and clear. "Don't move, help's coming." Cole didn't wait, he dropped to his knees, crawling slowly out beside her. The boy was frozen in fear. His lips trembled, tears ran sideways down his cheeks. "I've got him," Cole said under his breath. "You'll go through too if you're not careful." He didn't respond, just inched forward, his weight low and spread. When he got close enough, he reached. "Hey, buddy," grabbed my hand. The boy looked at him with wide, terrified eyes, then did. The ice groaned, a long, dangerous sound. Cole pulled him back slowly, heart thudding so hard it filled his ears. Behind him, Eva held her breath. When he made it back to the shore, the boy sobbing into his coat, Eva dropped to her knees beside them. "You're okay, you're safe now." Someone took the child away, blankets already waiting. Cole sat in the snow, hands shaking. Eva knelt in front of him, eyes wide. "You didn't even hesitate." He gave her a wry, breathless look. "I'm not used to waiting." "I noticed." Then she touched his face, just a graze of fingers over his jaw. It burned like sunlight. "You scared me." "I scared myself." That night, after everyone had calmed and the boy had gone home safe with his parents, Cole found Eva by the old tool shed, the one behind the lodge that no one used. "You okay?" he asked, his breath rising in the cold. "I'm fine, just thinking." "About?" She looked up. "About how some people show up in your life at the wrong time but for the right reasons." He stepped closer. "Is that what I am?" Her smile was soft. "I think you're figuring out how to be the right thing at the right time." There was no one around. No child between them. No firelight, no excuses. Just the raw, open quiet of a winter night, and two people who'd peeled back enough of their own walls to see each other clearly. This time, when he leaned in, she didn't turn away. Her lips met his with a gentleness that surprised them both, not rushed, not a promise, just an acknowledgement of what had been growing between them. When they pulled apart, her fingers lingered at his collar. "I wasn't sure you'd ever do that," she whispered. He looked down, a half-smile forming. "I had some help." From inside the cabin, Maddie's voice rang out, muffled but triumphant. "Told you." Eva laughed. Cole groaned, burying his face against her shoulder. And for the first time in a long while, everything felt simple. Everything felt earned. The kiss didn't change everything, not in the way movies might promise. There were no fireworks, no sweeping orchestral moments, but something had shifted. Cole felt it in the way Eva moved around him after that night, warmer maybe, but not clingy. Still her own person, still independent, still busy fixing a broken snowplow blade or organizing a lodge breakfast or teaching a group of kids how to make snow lanterns. But now when their eyes met, there was something unspoken between them, something real. He didn't tell Maddie what it meant, she didn't ask, she just smirked like she already knew. They fell into a rhythm. Every morning, Cole walked Maddie to the lodge for cocoa and crafts, then retreated to the converted office with his laptop, but the time he spent there grew shorter each day. The pull of the lodge, of the snow trails of her, kept tugging at him. Eva didn't press for more. She never asked what came after winter, never demanded words like future or commitment. But Cole saw the flicker of doubt sometimes, when she looked away too quickly or hesitated before accepting the mug he handed her. One morning, after a heavy snowfall, Maddie asked if she could skip the lodge activities and just stay in the cabin. She wanted to paint. Cole let her, set her up with a plastic tablecloth and a set of watercolors she'd found in one of Eva's craft bins. He watched her for a while, brush in hand, tongue between her teeth as she worked. "What are you painting?" he asked. "A picture of us." He leaned in. "Let me see." It wasn't anything fancy. Just 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one very small, standing beneath a crooked pine tree. The tallest one had a briefcase. The smallest had a crown. The one in the middle had hair in a braid and a heart above her head. Cole swallowed. "Is that Eva?" Maddie didn't even glance up. "Yeah, she fits." He didn't respond, just watched his daughter paint with the certainty of someone who saw things clearly long before grown-ups did. Later that afternoon, he found Eva dragging firewood behind the lodge. Her hair was tucked into a hat, her cheeks red from the cold. "Need help?" he asked. She looked up, smiled. "Sure, if you're offering." They stacked logs in silence for a few minutes, the sound of wood against wood rhythmic, grounding. Cole finally broke the quiet. Maddie painted a picture of us today. Yeah, you were in it. Eva didn't respond right away. She straightened, brushing snow from her gloves. Kids see things, she said softly, sometimes before we do. He stepped closer. She's right though, you do fit, not just with her, with me too. Eva exhaled, breath hanging between them. I want to believe that. You do. I want to, but wanting and trusting are different. Cole looked at her then, really looked. Tell me what you need. She blinked. What? To believe it, to trust it, what would help? Eva's mouth parted, then closed again. She wasn't used to people asking that, not without expecting something in return. I need to know you're not just playing Winter, she said. That this version of you doesn't vanish the second your plane takes off. He nodded. I'm not leaving in a few days. She looked at him, searching. You're not. I pushed the board meeting, gave my team full control for the next few weeks. Eva's eyebrows lifted. That doesn't sound like the Cole Brennan who yelled at a router 3 weeks ago. I'm trying not to be him anymore. Something in her eyes softened then, just enough to make space for hope. The next few days felt like the beginning of something. Not dramatic, not perfect, just honest. They went on a short snow hike together, the three of them, Maddie riding Cole's back halfway through, arms around his neck, giggling as Eva made exaggerated animal tracks for her to follow. They ate soup by the fire and let Maddie teach them a board game that made no logical sense but ended in laughter anyway. Eva touched Cole's hand more often. He leaned in without thinking. One night after Maddie had gone to sleep early from too much sledding and Eva had stayed late helping him fix a leak in the kitchen pipe, they found themselves on the couch, the fire low, the air between them warm and full of something new. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. He rested his cheek against her hair. You know, she murmured, I don't do this often. Fall for high-powered CEOs with no off switch. She smiled, fall for anyone. Cole turned slightly, kissed her temple. Me either. She tilted her face toward his and their lips met again, not like the first kiss. This time it was deeper, slower, threaded with everything unspoken. When they parted, she sighed, so what happens when the snow melts? He looked into her eyes, steady now. Maybe we don't wait for that. Eva pulled back slightly. What do you mean? I mean, you ever been to New York in spring? She raised an eyebrow. You want me to visit the city? I want you to see my world. I've seen yours. I've fallen in love with it. His voice caught slightly. And you, but I don't want to ask you to leave what you've built here. I want you to know all of me, not just the version who chops wood badly and burns pancakes. She studied him. You'd let me see the part of you that never stops moving. I'd ask you to walk through it with me, at your pace. Eva's smile was slow but real. You're getting good at this. What? Talking like a Hallmark movie. No, talking like a man who's starting to live the life he wants. They didn't say I love you, not yet. It didn't need saying. Not while it was already in how they touched, in how Maddie curled between them the next morning without hesitation, like they were already something whole. Not while the sky outside turned faintly pink, hinting at the end of winter and the beginning of something not yet defined, but deeply, unmistakably true. The snow began to melt slowly, stubborn patches clinging to shaded corners of the pines. Icicles dripped in the mornings, and the sky turned a brighter kind of blue, the kind that hinted at thaw and possibility. Winter wasn't quite done, but the edges were softening. So was Cole. He didn't notice it all at once. It happened in small, forgettable ways, like how he no longer flinched when Maddie interrupted his reading, or how he started remembering the names of the other guests and even joked with them at breakfast. He stopped checking time zones before answering emails. Some days he didn't open his laptop until sunset. Eva never pointed any of this out. She just noticed. Noticing was one of her quiet gifts. They spent the final week of the trip orbiting each other more closely than before. Dinners as a trio became their routine. Maddie started insisting on brushing her own hair, setting her clothes out the night before. Cole asked Eva about her life before Pinewood Hollow, what she missed about teaching, what she didn't. She told him about the burnout, about the grief that had once knocked the breath from her lungs, about how she'd thought she might never feel full again. And he told her, slowly, about the years he lost chasing things that never held him the way his daughter's hand did, about how terrified he'd been when he first got sole custody, about the nights he lay awake wondering if Maddie would grow up resenting him. Eva didn't offer platitudes. She just listened, her hand curled around his as if to say, "I'm still here." One night, on the eve of what had once been his original departure date, Cole took a walk alone. It wasn't out of hesitation. He just needed the space to feel what was real. The snow was packed firm beneath his boots, the trails quiet. The moon cast a silver sheen over the trees, and the air smelled like cedar and cold earth. He thought of the first day they'd arrived, how foreign it had all felt. The cabin, the silence, his daughter's eagerness, Eva's blunt warmth. And now, he looked back at the lodge through the trees, its windows glowing. His home wasn't that penthouse in the city anymore, not really. Home had shifted. It had Maddie's watercolor paintings on the walls, Eva's boots by the door, and a peace inside him he hadn't known he needed. When he returned to the cabin, Maddie was already in bed, snoring faintly, cheeks pink from the last sled run she'd insisted on taking after dinner. Eva sat on the couch, her legs tucked under her, thumbing through a worn paperback. She looked up as he entered, closing the book and setting it aside. "Hey," she said softly. He sat beside her. "Hey." She waited, patient, unpressing. "I think we should try," he said, "not just visiting each other, something real." Eva's brows drew together slightly. "You mean?" "I mean I'll be back in a few weeks. I'll keep the place through the spring, maybe longer, and I want to fly you and Maddie down to the city for a visit when school's out." She searched his face. "You're serious?" He nodded. "I'm not the same man who landed here last month." "No," she said, her voice quiet, "you're not. And I don't want to go back to who I was. I want to build something else, with you, with her. I don't know what it'll look like yet, but I want to find out." Eva leaned her head against his shoulder. "You're not afraid." "I'm terrified, but I want it anyway." She smiled then, the kind that started slow but filled her whole face. "Then so do I." He kissed her just once, soft and steady. And Maddie, half awake in the next room, murmured, "Finally," before rolling over. They left Pinewood Hollow at the end of the second week in March. The roads were clearer, the days longer, and Cole no longer needed directions to find the lodge or start the fireplace. Maddie cried when they packed, but Eva promised they'd be back soon. "We'll make it our place," she told her, "not just a vacation one that lasts." On the morning they left, Eva helped load the car. She hugged Maddie tight, whispering something that made the little girl nod fiercely and wipe her eyes with her sleeve. Then she turned to Cole. "I'll see you in a few weeks." "You sure will." He pulled her close and they stood there for a long moment, the smell of thawing pine between them, the air holding the first notes of spring. As they pulled away down the gravel road, Maddie looked out the window, waving until the lodge disappeared. "Daddy," she said, chewing her mitten, "does this mean she's gonna be, like, my second favorite person now?" Cole smiled at her in the rearview mirror. "Maybe, or maybe she'll be tied for first." Maddie grinned. "Good, I think she'd win at that." And Cole, his hand steady on the wheel, realized something he hadn't known when this began. He hadn't just fallen in love with a woman. He'd fallen in love with the version of himself she brought to life. And he was finally ready to live as him. Not someday. Now.